India is getting a lot of international assistance from across the world, even as it battles the second wave of the COVID pandemic. And Switzerland is no different. It has sent supplies to India, supplies that have reached New Delhi. And with me is the Swiss envoy to talk more about the Swiss assistance. Sir, welcome to WION. And my first and obvious question is that what kind of assistance have the Swiss government provided to New Delhi, even as it faces the crisis, the challenge of the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, thank you, Siddhant, for having me. This is a huge crisis, and a lot of people are suffering in India. And on the other side, we see a lot of solidarity, international solidarity, and about 40 countries are providing relief packages to India. And I'm happy to say that Switzerland is among those countries. And last night, Swiss cargo flight landed in New Delhi with about 13 tons of medical equipment. We had 600 oxygen concentrators on board and 50 ventilators. The ventilators came from the stocks of the Swiss Armed Forces. They were originally for the Swiss people. Now they are here to assist the suffering Indian population, and humanitarian aid is arrived in India. I'm happy that this was done quickly, and we handed over the goods tonight to the Indian Red Cross Society.
Mm-hmm. And the private sector, the Swiss private sector is also pitching in. If you can give us the details about the private sector's assistance to India.
Indeed, the Swiss private sector is part and parcel of this solidarity coming from Switzerland. You might know that Switzerland is one of the most important trade and investment partners of India. There are more than 300 Swiss businesses in India, 120 Indian businesses in Switzerland, and they come together under the umbrella of the Swiss Indian Chamber of Commerce. And my embassy, together with the Swiss Business Hub in Mumbai, with the Swiss Indian Chamber of Commerce, we coordinated the relief package from the private sector. There are more than 30 Swiss businesses that are part of that relief package, and the first cargo will arrive next night. That means Saturday morning in Delhi with 100 oxygen concentrators. Again, it is good to see that not only the Swiss government and the Swiss people, but also the Swiss private sector are stepping up to the plate. There's a lot of solidarity coming from Switzerland to India.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of cooperation when it comes to dealing with the COVID crisis has been there between India and Switzerland? We know that the Swiss authorities are perhaps helping India in early detection of COVID through sewage. If you can give us the details about this plan as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Last year, when COVID struck, the Swiss Development Agency redirected programs and projects and funds in order to fight COVID. And that was also done here in India. Normally, the Swiss Development Agency in India is dealing with global warming and climate change. And last year, the Swiss Development Agency invested in projects that helped city authorities to detect COVID early on in wastewater, and that is an important early warning system for municipal authorities in order to detect COVID early on before you have the people that are coming in your hospitals. This is not only being done in India, this is being done by Swiss cities as well. The wastewater COVID early detection system is very important for policymakers at the municipal level to act early on in a COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm. So coming back to the assistance sent by Switzerland, are you concerned about the end use, about where it is reaching the assistance?
Well, I think first and foremost, it is important how this relief effort is being done. The relief packages from Switzerland, our partner here is the Indian Red Cross Society. So the cargo last night was handed over to the Indian Red Cross Society, and our relief goods will be dispatched and distributed through the Ministry of Health. So my embassy is not distributing the relief items. This is being done by and through the Indian Red Cross Society and the Ministry of Health. Mm-hmm. Now, early in my careers, I was head of Crisis Management Center of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. So my job was to look after Swiss citizens abroad in a crisis situation. And I learned one or two things there. And one lesson that I learned was that it needs time at the beginning of a crisis to get the right structures and the right processes in place in order to be able to efficiently deal and manage that crisis. And that is exactly what I'm seeing here now when it comes to the Indian government. The Indian government is setting up the right structures and the right processes when it comes to dealing with the crisis and also with dispatching the incoming relief items. In my assessment, give the Indian government some more time to finalize the structures and processes.
Mm-hmm. So now coming to the international travel restrictions, ever since the COVID pandemic second wave has hit India, there are countries who have been coming with their own restrictions when it comes to travelers coming from India. Is any kind of restriction being announced or perhaps happened from Switzerland when it comes to travelers coming from India, or perhaps your advisory to your citizens not to perhaps go to India or South Asia as of now?
Well, 1 year ago, we changed our travel advice, but our travel advice for more or less all the countries of the globe. And the Swiss authorities are advising the Swiss people only to travel in case of necessity. So that is the travel advice that is in place for almost all countries of this planet and also for India. So in that respect, we did not change our travel advice when it comes to India because of the new situation here in India with the second wave.
Mm-hmm. And sir, what about your mission here in Delhi? Because we have seen missions being impacted, a lot of foreign embassies and high commissions being impacted, their diplomats being impacted by the COVID pandemic. What is the situation in your mission? And also, have you sent back some of your diplomats as some embassies are doing?
Well, when it comes to the second part of your question, my boss, the Prime Minister, Federal Councillor Cassis, was very clear right at the beginning of the crisis. The missions abroad have to remain functional, they have to work, and they have to move on and do their business. And for that reason, the transferable staff remained abroad. And that is the policy that remains up to today. So we have all the staff members here in Delhi, all the transferable staff members in Bangalore and in Mumbai. I only have 2 transferable staff members that are on rest and relief now in India. So my staff and the staff in Mumbai and Bangalore is in India and remains in India. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the situation of my embassy and the consulate generals in Mumbai, the Swiss Business Hub in Mumbai, and the consulate general in Bangalore and Swissnex. 2 weeks ago, I had to medically evacuate 1 transferable staff member from Bangalore to Switzerland because of COVID. When it comes to the situation here in the embassy, I have a number of local staff members that are ill in different stages of COVID. Luckily, no severe case, about dozens of them. No local staff member is down with COVID at this point. So far, we were lucky, but you also have to know that our COVID measures are very strict. And I never changed our COVID measures over the last months. I arrived in September. I always kept very strict COVID measures here at the embassy. And I think that was the right decision in March, early March. I felt that some of my staff members want to go back to normal and put some pressure on me to change our COVID mitigation measures. And I made clear at the beginning of March that this was not the time to let down our guard, and that the situation in India reminded me very much of the situation of last summer in Europe. I was quite surprised when I arrived from Nairobi to Switzerland last summer that I was one of the few people wearing a mask. And in October, with a cold weather front coming over Europe, we had the beginning of a big second wave in Europe and in Switzerland as well. So we remain very cautious and prudent when it comes to COVID here at the embassy in Bangalore and in Mumbai.
Mm-hmm. So my last question to you is, we have seen in past few days the development coming with the Washington extending its support when it comes to the waiver on intellectual property rights when it comes to the COVID vaccines. And since then, Russia has announced its decision in terms of saying that they will support it, the proposal. The EU has said that they will look into the proposal. What's the stance of your government? Will you also extend your support to waiver when it comes to patents on COVID vaccines, so that everyone in the world can produce vaccines and vaccines can be given to everyone?
Yeah, with the decision of the US government, we have a new situation. And that means that the Swiss government is now assessing the new situation. And based on that, we'll take a position. So I'm aware that this is happening now in Bern. Let's wait and see what the outcome will be.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, sir, for speaking to WION so extensively about the assistance being given to Switzerland, from Switzerland to New Delhi, and of course, the partnership between Switzerland and India, which of course is something that is much celebrated as well. But nonetheless, this is a time of solidarity. This is a time of sticking together so that we can fight and battle this COVID pandemic. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Siddhant. All the best to you and your viewers.
Thank you, sir.